Hi, it's Daphne. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is my January wrap-up where I go through all the books I read in January. In January, I read 10 books. 9 of them were romances and 1 was a non-fiction. Of those 9 romances, 5 were historical and 4 were contemporary. As for star ratings, I gave out 1 5-star, 3 4-stars, and 6 3-stars. The first book I'm going to talk about is Liquor and Laundry by Tasha L. Harrison. This is like a short romance novella. It's a contemporary about Hadassah and Ahmad. They're old high school classmates, but it's a few years later. Ahmad is really excelling in the NFL, and Hadassah still lives back at home. She runs her family's laundromat. I think the previous year, before the story kind of takes off, Hadassah kind of threw herself at Ahmad. She's had a crush on him for years. Ahmad has really liked her, but for some reason was like scared to approach her. So they like hooked up, and then a year goes by and they didn't talk. So the story picks up from there, and it's them trying to reveal their true feelings for each other. It's a steamy, fun time. I ended up giving this book 3 stars. I feel like Ahmad was really fleshed out. I felt both characters had more depth than like it could have been if it was gonna just be stereotypical. I loved how much Ahmad truly cared for Hadassah, and you could just see his genuine feelings for her. He wasn't just like a player, which is like a bad reputation thing with professional athletes, and it was fun. It was cute. Then I read Heartsmart by Emily Jane. This is the second book in the Work For It series. I have not read the first one. So this is a contemporary academic romance between our hero Max and our heroine Holly. So Max is like a scientific professor slash researcher, and Holly is a communications professor. So Max is up for this big grant, but he has this bad reputation, and he's just got kind of this gruff, unapproachable personality. So the dean or whatever has asked Holly to help reform this guy so he has a better chance to perform well in front of the board so we can get this prestigious grant for the school. And then it's their love story. I also thought this book was interesting because the characters had a lot of things going on. Like Max had a severe leg injury, so he walked with a cane. And then Holly, I believe, had ADHD. I ended up giving this 3 stars as well. It was really fun, but some of the aspects of the book were very like eye-rolly. Like not super cringe, but like kind of like, okay. Like I don't remember exactly. I didn't love the writing style as well, but I could still push through. Because I thought the characters were really interesting. For example, Holly has an ex at the school who she still has to have a professional relationship with, but he's kind of a douchebag. And then she really wants to adopt children. I would recommend it, but for me personally, I just didn't love the writing style, and I don't love like contemporary romances. They can be a little rom-com-y at times, and I just don't love that. Hopefully that was coherent enough. I also read volumes 3 and 4 of Heartstopper with Nick and Charlie. This is a graphic novel series. I really enjoyed the first 1 and 2. However, for volumes 3 and 4, I gave both of those 3 stars. Not to be super spoilery or anything, but the 3rd volume, the boys go on a school trip to Paris, and they begin coming out more to their friends as a couple and how that goes down. And then in the 4th book, it talks about Charlie's eating disorder issues and how Nick has to try to support him through this difficult time in his life. I really like the series overall. It's cute, it's heartwarming. I thought it was cute that Nick is like French too, so he speaks French, and everyone was impressed with that. I'm like, oh, can I actually read what he's saying? And for the most part, yes. But I just found them like a little less fun than the first 2, so I just gave them 3 stars. Not bad, but not faves. I also read How to Love a Duke in 10 Days by Kerrigan Byrne. This is a part of the Devil You Know series, book 1. So this is a historical romance between Alexandra and Piers. Piers is the Duke. He's actually engaged to Alexandra's friend, who doesn't really want to marry him. Her friend has other motives. She's like trying to figure out this mystery revolving her family being murdered or something. But Alexandra and Piers have this connection, and things evolve from there. I don't want to spoil it too much. I will say There is a heavy, serious trigger warning for rape on page in this book. I did not know that at all going in. From the synopsis and from like the reviews I looked at, there was no mention of that. But Alexandra overcoming that trauma is a key aspect in the book. And honestly, I think it's done extremely well as far as in my limited life experience, thank God, can say. But yeah, rape on page, like first chapter, the first thing you're gonna see. She's like away at boarding school when she's like 17 and a teacher like assaults her. And then she murders him. That's not super spoilery because it happens in the first chapter, but her and like her best friends at school and this groundskeeper cover it up. And now it's like 10 years later and someone's been blackmailing her and stuff. So there's that whole backstory going on, as well as her romance with Piers. And it was really good. I got this off Kindle Unlimited, but the following books in the series aren't on Kindle Unlimited, so I couldn't continue. But like, I was getting really invested in all these characters. So I want to continue the series. Who knows if I'll just pick them up on ebook, but I would definitely recommend this book or this series potentially. I really enjoyed the writing style. The plot aspect is actually interesting. Sometimes I find in romances the plots can be very distracting and I'm just here for the romance, but like the romance is really fleshed out and the plot is interesting enough, and I had a really good time. I ended up giving it 5 stars. And I also read When Breath Becomes Air by Paul Kalanithi. This is the nonfiction book I was talking about. So Paul was a neurosurgeon and he was diagnosed with cancer when he was 36, coming on to the peak of his career. He was finishing up his residency. He had a lot of great offers at prestigious hospitals, and then all of a sudden with this cancer diagnosis, his life totally takes a turn. This is his autobiography, what he learned about being in medical school and what it means to be human and have empathy and understanding death and what it means to be a human, I guess, at the end of the day. He was used to seeing a lot of death, being in the medical field, being in hospitals all the time, and how sometimes doctors can treat patients as problems that need to be solved versus human beings. You know, like for them, this might be one instance in their day, but for that patient, this is like a pivotal, scary time in their life. It's a very interesting read. My in-laws got this for me. There's a bookmark in it because Chase is still reading it. He's almost completed it. And yeah, I think it's very thought-provoking and I'm glad that I read it. I ended up giving this 4 stars. All right, so the last 4 books I'm gonna talk to you about are all in the same historical romance series. It's The Legend of the Four Soldiers by Elizabeth Hoyt. The first book is To Taste Temptation. I actually DNF'd this book like months ago, but decided to pick it up again in January. I just picked up where I left off, which was about 50% of the way through. So this first book is between Emmeline and Samuel. Emmeline is a very proper English lady. She is a widow, she has a young son, and then Samuel is an American who to the British seems very strange, like he's wearing like leggings and moccasins and stuff, and he's come to England on business and he's brought his younger sister. So he asks Emmeline to help train his sister in the English ways so she can fit in better with English society while they're there. And then it's their love story. There's this whole background thing of like a mystery of what happened at this battle in the Americas, and if they were betrayed by their own men to the French and the Native Americans that they were fighting. A lot of the soldiers were murdered and a lot of their friends were like traumatized from this experience. So there's this whole mystery of like, were they betrayed by one of their own men? That whole plot I was like so not interested in. There was like a lot of talk of it in the first book. That's why I DNF'd it. But on the continuation, it was really fun. I will say Elizabeth Hoyt can really write good, steamy romances, and since I read 4 of her books almost back to back, I've noticed that like after you hit 50%, that's when the romance really starts picking up. So their romance became really cute. They were staying at like another rich person's house for like weeks on end, like to party and stuff. Sam was just really strong in pursuing Emmeline. She was like not feeling it because he's really below her station, and she was engaged to Jasper, her old friend from like childhood. He's gonna be in one of the other books, but she wasn't in love with him, but she just wanted to remarry in her like level in society. So Samuel, being just like this random American guy, she was like no, but she was very attracted to him, and he was just so persistent and just so steamy. I will say though, I read this right after How to Love a Duke in 10 Days, so him kind of being pushy was a little bit of a turnoff, coming from How to Love a Duke in 10 Days, where the hero was super understanding and super sensitive to how our heroine was feeling, and then like transitioning to Taste Temptation, where the guy was like, I want you now. It was just weird, coming from a guy being super sensitive to a guy being very alpha. I ended up giving it 3 stars. It was a fun time, but just the plot stuff, I was just like not that interested in, so I couldn't really give it more than 3. So the second book in the series is called To Seduce a Sinner. This book is between Jasper, which was Emmeline's ex-fiance at this point, and Millicent. So Millicent is Emmeline's best friend. She's loved Jasper from afar for like 6 years, but she's like super shy. She doesn't like going to crowded places and all this stuff, and Jasper's kind of like this party guy. He was also at that ambush thing, so like he's like continuing this search for answers. Obviously his engagement with Emmeline broke off, so he got engaged to another woman, and then he's at the wedding, and then all of a sudden she like backs out because she's in love with someone else. So Millicent was there as a guest at the wedding, and she goes to Jasper and is like, I will marry you. So they get married, and it's their love story. So Millicent is very happy and excited to be married to Jasper. He has such a reputation of being like a stellar lover, but for whatever reason, because she's his wife, he's just like boom boom, get it done, and he like leaves. So she's like, what the F? So she's trying to seduce him into showing her like the best of the marriage bed. Obviously she's in love with him already, but she's hesitant to like share her feelings with him because she feels it will make her vulnerable. But it's their story of like emotionally falling in love even though they're already married. I gave this 3 stars. It was a fun time. Too much of the mystery shit that I didn't care about. Continuing with the series, I read the 3rd book in January, To Beguile a Beast. This one is between Alistair and Helen. So Helen is the mistress of this other guy who's like an a-hole. He doesn't even like care about her that much anymore. He just likes to have her pretty much as a trophy. She has 2 children with, you know, the guy she's the mistress of, but she's over it. He's like abusive. Is he abusive? He's like crazy, and she just wants a better life for herself without feeling trapped, and to be able to protect her kids, because she feels like if she asks the guy if she can leave, he's gonna say no and like make her life hell and like take her kids and stuff, because he's just a controlling a-hole. So she asks for help from Millicent, who she's met out and about in London. So Millicent sends her out to Scotland to be the housekeeper of this man, Alistair. Alistair has no idea that Helen is coming. He lives in this huge castle that's like in disrepair because he just locked himself away. He has no servants except like one drunk manservant, and he's like a recluse, I guess. So he was also at that ambush that all the other guys were at in the Americas, and he was brutally scarred from the Native Americans that had captured him. So he is missing one eye, and his face is very scarred on that side, and he's missing like a few fingers as well. So that's where the beast aspect comes in. But I really, really enjoyed this story. Helen and Alistair falling in love was really sweet because Helen had her kids with her, and he just grew to love them as well. And she just takes over his castle, like hires new people, is cleaning it up, just like really revitalizing his life. And he's very attracted to her. I mean, Helen was a mistress. She's known for being very beautiful around London, even though she's like scapegoated. And it was just really, really sweet. There was less plot about this mystery thing, which was a major relief. So I gave this book 4 stars, and it was really sweet. And even though a lot of the people around Alistair, like when he goes out, are terrified of him, like Helen saw the beauty in him, and he's worth loving, obviously, and he was very insecure about that stuff and didn't think a relationship would last with Helen, but he was just like taking what he could get, and it was just so sweet. 4 stars. I would recommend this book. And then the last book in this series, book 4, is To Desire a Devil. So this book is between Renaud and Beatrice. Renaud is Emmeline's brother, who was thought dead from that ambush thing that happened like 7 years ago, right? Everyone thought he was dead. He hasn't been seen in 7 years. All of a sudden, he comes back to England and is like, I'm home. Where's my father? I'm here to claim my title, yada, yada, yada. So his dad had died while he was lost in America. He was actually captured by Native Americans and kept as a slave for those 7 years. And that whole time he was trying to come back home. But like I said, his father had died, so his title was reclaimed by his uncle. So his uncle lives at his estate with his niece, the uncle's niece, right? Her name's Beatrice. She's the love interest. So at first you're like, wait, are they related? Like, this is nasty. How are we gonna have a romance between like second cousins or whatever level that would be? But no, so the uncle married this woman, right? Let's just call her Anne. Anne's sister had Beatrice. Beatrice's parents died. So the uncle and her aunt took her in as their own child. So she's not related to Renaud by blood, but they're like technically family. So anyway, Renaud comes back and is like, this is my title. I want all my stuff back, but he's like crazy. Like he's like wild, like he's come back changed. He's not the same man. Beatrice has been kind of obsessed with him because there's this beautiful portrait of him up in the house that they're staying at. And she just looks upon this portrait and she's just like in love with this idea of this man. Now he's here in real life. It was actually kind of interesting. So Renaud would stay in their house because it's his. And Beatrice is like, we can't kick him out because that won't look good when the uncle and Renaud are like fighting over the title. And he like slowly seduces her and they fall in love and all this stuff, yada, yada, yada. It's their romance. It's really fun. I had a good time. More of the plot stuff is happening, but I still gave this book 4 stars because now I had been reading the mystery aspects of this like betrayal for so long that it didn't bother me as much because I'm like, all right, it's gonna end, so I might as well consume it properly versus like skimming it. It didn't detract from the story as much because I knew what was going on more. It didn't feel as random because I've been reading parts of it for 3 previous books. I mean, I would recommend this series in general. It's fun time, they're fun romances. Just know that like there is gonna be a big focus on this mystery betrayal plot line. So don't let that bother you too much or just skim it if you don't care like I did. But I mean, it might be interesting to somebody. Still really enjoy Elizabeth Hoyt's writing. Not all her books are like 5 stars, 4 stars, but that didn't mean I didn't have a great time reading it. So those are all the books I read in January. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, feel free to give it a thumbs up and subscribe down below if you hadn't already. And I'll see you in another video. Bye!